We're on the way to Old Kempton Distillery, but first we're gonna do a stopover para magkape dito sa bakehouse, Brighton's Best Bakehouse. Fully kasing sarap siya, kasing level siya nung na-experience namin sa most breakfast and cafe restaurant. So yeah, we're excited to have coffee.
Hey, it's Ryan again from R.E.R. Whiskey March. Today we're actually visiting Old Kempton Distillery. So we're gonna be doing some distillery tour and we're gonna do some whiskey tasting, so can't wait. Oh, this was like 45 kilometers from where we were staying in city center. Yeah, but should be good. Yeah.
Just before, yeah, it's bigger deal, so but yeah. Yeah, you see.
This one just says seafood. You know?
Yeah.
Seafood, Mossman, yeah, you know.
You know that,
Yeah, of course.
Have you say it right there?
I grew up in Hornsby.
Hornsby,
yeah.
Man Colla's my hometown, but my
North Shore.
mum and dad are from French's Forest. They went to
So
very quite well.
So that's why you hate the place.
Beautiful, fantastic. What I'll do, I'll come in, I'll walk you through, unless you want to film it, we can go into the cellar door. Yeah. We'll walk you through the different whiskies. We'll get all of you. Because I've got to find out what whiskies you want to taste.
What's your name again, boss?
Adam.
Adam, thanks, man.
Rodrigo, Ryan, Edwin, Bernie.
You want to remember it as long as you remember your name, man.
I'm a face person.
Thanks, man.
And we're all doing tour and tasting, aren't we?
Yes, please.
Fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Beautiful.
It's a marriage of multiple casks at 40.5%. It's sweet on the nose and savoury on the palate. So you're going to get some really nice kind of malted barley, toffee notes as well, as some subtle oak and some spice. Just a very easy drinking dram. It did win Australia's Best Small Batch 12 years and under at the World Whisky Awards in 2022. So it's just a very easy style whiskey for our range. We then move up to our 46 range, or what we call our classic range. Now our classic range comes in 3 different formats. We've got Australian Seppeltsfield tawny casks, or as people would know them as port casks.
Yep.
So what you're seeing here in our 46% is sweet on the nose with some really nice stewed fruits, a little bit of white pepper and jammy marmalade flavours. We then have our classic Pinot Noir cask, which is full maturation in Tasmanian Pinot Noir. Now, RD654 is a Stefano Lubiana cask. So Stefano Lubiana is one of Tasmania's most awarded organic wineries. So with theirs 4.5 years in a 100-litre cask for maturation, you're really going to see some really nice kind of dark fruits. So think about blackberries, mulberries, cherries, with a really nice subtle tannin on the back palate and a little bit of that cinnamon spice as well.
Do you want me to put that on?
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Do
you want to help him out?
Oh, no. Here, you put it on.
Thanks, John.
Thanks,
you
John.
so
That
much.
was appreciated. I will put it there. There you go.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, so this house was built as a coaching inn between 1840 and 1842 for a guy by the name of William Henry Ellis. William Ellis hails from Exeter in England. He was working for a grocer at the time. He was quite entrepreneurial and clever, a bit too clever for his own good. Grocer suspected he was stealing from him, so he marked some coins in the cash register. And of course he was stealing from him. So the authorities caught up with him. They found him with 6 shillings of marked coins on his possession. They went back to his place of residence and they found other items that he'd accumulated through ill-begotten means. However, he was only charged with the theft of the 6 shillings. So he was sentenced to between 7 and 14 years, sent to Van Diemen's Land in 1827. He was released early on good behaviour. He married quite well, and within under 9 years of being released, he'd accumulated enough wealth to have this coaching inn built. Wow. So it was built as a coaching inn. It was able to accommodate over 40 people, 22 horses in the stables next door and a carriage. He also controlled the coaching route from Hobart to Kempton as part of the Hobart to Launceston route. They had 13 children, 11 surviving, and they lived here till 1860 when he died and the house was sold. Became a private girls' school for about 10 years.
Okay.
And after that, it's primarily been a private residence. Currently, the home is owned by a guy by the name of John Ibrahim, not of King's Cross fame. But John hails from Sydney. He made his money in redeveloping service stations in the Sydney metro area. Came down here, fell in love with the colonial Georgian charm and the whiskey story. So John purchased Dysart House, and Old Kempton Distillery leases the ground floor and outbuildings. And John is also the main driving force behind the redevelopment of the Callington Mill Distillery in Oatlands, which is half an hour north of here. So he's invested like multi-million dollars in the redevelopment of an old flour mill and the development of a state-of-the-art commercial-sized distillery in the town of Oatlands.
Do they make whiskey there as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's about it with the history. Now we'll go down to the distillery and
Cool.
go
follow
through
you.
that. So this building here is our old stables. It was built in 1845. So this end would have had 22 horses and the bottom end the carriage. We have been using it as our bond store. So with the whiskey in barrels maturing, and they call it under bond because no tax has been paid on it. They don't pay tax on it until it goes into bottle and it's up for retail sale. But we were granted permission to build 2 new bond stores, and late last year we got occupancy permit for those as well. So beyond, just after Christmas, the distillers have moved all the stock from here into our new bond stores. Because aesthetically, it's a great building and it's still set up like with the horse bays. But we couldn't get a forklift in there, and everything has to be moved manually by hand, so not really fit for purpose. And where the coach would have been when the distillery first moved here, they operated the distillery in that room. Yeah, and now it's used as a settling room. So we, once the whiskies mature, they transfer it to alcohol-proof plastic vats. The only thing we ever add to any spirit to change the alcohol by volume is water.
Yep.
So they add water to bring it to the desired strength, and we settle it all naturally. So yeah, it has to sit there to settle before they can siphon it off into a new vat to bottle up. So this is our distillery. It's been operating a couple of years now, and beyond it you can see 2 new bond stores. So we'll go into the bond store a bit later and have a look at the casks.
Do you have a cooperage here as well? Like, you know, when you build barrels?
A cooper? No, not on site.
Not on site.
But we do work with a couple of coopers.
Okay.
So this is pretty much state-of-the-art craft distillery in Tasmania. It's been operating for just over 2 years. Oh, I was going to point, there's a diagram here, which was drawn by Bill Lark. So his signature on the bottom left is Bill Lark.
Yep.
So he's sort of recognised as the godfather of modern day Australian distilling, and I was going to say it's worth taking a photo of that because it's a basic diagrams of the distillation process, but if you refer back to it after I've talked to you, it'll go, oh, all right, this all makes sense. So, now making whiskey, the first thing we need is a product called whiskey wash. Ourselves, as do many other craft boutique distilleries, they will work with craft breweries to make their wash. Because whiskey wash is not dissimilar to beer, but without the hops. So in making whiskey wash, we get malted barley. For us, it comes from the north of the state, near a city called Devonport.
Yep.
It's Tasmanian grown barley, and they'll grist the barley. So gristing is not like making it into a flour, it's just splitting the grain apart, opening the grain up. So they use a gristing mill, they grist the barley into what's known as a mash tun. They add hot water to it and mix it up like porridge. They allow the grain to steep in the water for about 4 to 6 hours. Then they'll, and this is a mash tun behind us here. They'll allow the grain steep in the hot water, and then they'll drain the liquid from the bottom of the vat, and there's a mesh floor in the vat. So the liquid from the bottom goes into these fermentation vessels. They're also known as washbacks. And the spent grain goes off to farmers to feed livestock. So we try and minimise waste where we can. Once the liquid's cooled, we'll add yeast to it. The yeast feeds off the starches and sugars released into the liquid from the grain. Takes about 3 days for the yeast to feed off that, and then the yeast becomes dormant. After 7 days, we're left with a fermented product called whiskey wash at 7 to 8% alcohol by volume.
7-8%.
So we're in the process of being able to do our own wash, but we're not quite there yet, and we're still purchasing wash from a craft brewery in Hobart called Last Rights Brewery. So we end up with about 1,000 litres of whiskey wash, goes into what's known as the wash still. So these are copper pot stills. This is a 2,000 litre wash still. They're handcrafted for us by a company in Hobart called Bailey Stills. So it operates like a big electric kettle. Electric heating element in the base. We put 1,000 litres of wash into the 2,000 litre still. They close the door, under pressure, heat it up to about 83 degrees Celsius. Alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature than water. So the first to evaporate goes up the swan neck, down the line arm, and through a condenser at the other end, reliquefies. Comes out, it's known as low wines, and it's about 22% alcohol by volume. The remaining liquid is known as pot ale. We used to spread it on the paddock out the back where the bond stores are. Now it gets removed by a waste company. But it doesn't go off to a treatment plant, it goes off to agribusiness. They add lime to it to neutralise it and spread it on the paddocks for fertiliser.
As fertiliser?
Yeah. So again, it's sort of trying to minimise the waste and reuse things. To the spirit still. So this is a 900 litre spirit still. With our processes, there's no computers involved. The distillers, through human senses, determine differences that they have to make. So through temperature, timing, taste and smell, the distillers recognise when they need to make what they call cuts in the run of the spirit run. So they put the low wines in, close it off, heat it up. Because it's gone in at 22% alcohol, it's going to come out at a higher percentage alcohol. So the first to come off is known as the fours or four shots. It contains a percentage of methanol. It also has a very chemical, sort of astringent component to the nose, not dissimilar to acetone. So we don't want to drink that, can send you blind or kill you. So they collect the fours in the vat on the left-hand side. At a certain stage in the run, the liquid will become rich, oily, malty, and they'll change the hose from the left to the right-hand side, and they'll start collecting the spirit. And that's known as the heart of the run, or new make spirit, and it's what we will collect to go into casks to mature to become whiskey.
The new make you can drink that.
Yeah. So then at a later stage, the liquid will go back to this chemical sort of component. So they put the hose back on the right-hand side, and that's called the faints. So we keep the fours and the faints on the left, the heart of the run on the right, accumulate that to go into casks. The next time they use the spirit still, they'll put the low wines from the wash run, and they'll add the fours and the faints from the previous run, and they're able to get a bit more spirit from the fours and the faints the next time round. About twice a year, they'll discard the fours and the faints, and they'll start the process off again. So the next thing we need are the casks. So there's a couple of things around whiskey. In Australia, it must be matured a minimum of 2 years in a cask that's had something else in it previously. Must be presented at a minimum of 40% alcohol by volume. So you like Johnny Walker Reds and Grants and Shivers,
All gotta be minimum.
smack on 40% because it's as low as they can take the alcohol by volume. So for us, primarily we use ex-fortified wine casks, and they come from South Australia.
Okay.
Because South Australia does good, big, robust reds and fortified. So a pair of sherry, tawny port, Tokay, muscat. They're generally French oak casks. So they will come over and they'll be split apart. You have the long bits, the staves, and the headwood. And we have a couple of coopers that we use here. So they will shave the internal surface of the stave to take the bulk of the residue off the stave. They'll use their machinery to re-angle the wood depending on the size of the cask that's required. They'll put the central hoops on and then they'll fire the internal surface. The firing caramelises whatever residue is left on the internal surface of the cask. It also opens up the grain of wood to allow the spirit to seep further into the wood. And
That's how it gets its colour.
yeah, so it gets some of the tannins from the wood, the internal surface, and also whatever residue might be left on the internal surface as well. If it's a port or a sherry, they quite often give it a deeper, darker.
Is it where it gets
colour.
its sweetness as well, or not?
Yeah. Yeah. So with the ex-fortifieds, they will give sort of like dried grapefruit, like raisins, sultanas, that sort
from the old wines,
of Christmas cake, plum pudding sort of notes. And occasionally we've been able to access ex-Pinot Noir casks from within Tasmania. There's a couple of wineries that we work with there. One's called Stefano Lubiana in the Derwent Valley on the way to New Norfolk. The other one's Frogmore Creek Winery in the Coal River Valley on the way to Richmond. They both do fine Pinot Noir, and it's been good for us to have that Tasmanian provenance of making the spirit here and then maturing it in a cask that's had Tasmanian product in it as well. And then, so they're again generally French oak. And then we have had consignments of ex-bourbon casks from America. So they generally come holus bolus, a 200 litre cask in containers. And one of the differences with American bourbon is it must be matured in new American oak barrels. So they don't use used barrels, they use new American oak. So therefore about 70% of Scottish whiskey is matured in ex-American bourbon casks. And I forgot, I've got some new make spirit here for you guys to have a taste of.
All right, okay, then give me.
So this is our new make spirit before it goes into the cask at 63.4% alcohol by volume. So when you have a smell of it, you'll notice it's a bit malty on the nose. And when you have a taste, it's a little bit like moonshine. Did you want some? I'll just get a little cup of...
New make. So the new make is the one that comes out of all this before it goes to the barrels.
Yeah, before it goes, yeah. So it's crystal clear like water. It's at 63.4% alcohol by volume. That's what it goes into the cask
very
here at.
strong.
And our head distiller, Rob, suggests it's really important to get the new make spirit right in the first place, because if you don't get that right, well then the whole process is sort of is not good.
This is a whiskey.
Yeah,
You can call it whiskey anyway. You have to put
yeah, new make spirit
Actually, it tastes like tequila.
or malt spirit. I can guarantee you there's no agave in that.
Yeah. Can you sell it just like this?
Pete, you can, but generally they would add more water and bring it down. Because years ago I remember like R.E.R. Distillery, it was called malt spirit, and I think it was about 50%.
Okay.
But because distilleries that primarily make whiskey are looking for other opportunities to get a return on their investment or their cash flow.
But this is something you drink if you just want to get drunk. Though. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if you're having a bad day, I'll have this. Can't really
Having
enjoy
a bad day.
or a good day,
Or,
maybe.
yeah. Good, 'cause it gives you an idea of what the spirit tastes like before it goes into the cask. So when you go back in and you have the whiskey, you'll recognise the
definitely.
influence of the cask.
It's overpowering. Yeah.
So this is a bourbon cask.
Bourbon cask.
I have a feeling it was recently filled, but it leaked.
Okay.
Yeah, because there were issues with it.
So if
So
it
this is
leaks,
a
what happens with it?
200 litre bourbon cask.
Okay. If the cask leaks, what do you guys do with the alcohol?
Oh, they try and look for a way to. They might leave it overnight with water and see if it continues to leak, or sometimes the swelling will stop that leak happening. Sometimes they've got to put little chips of oak in to fill the gaps where there's might be a hole or a nail or something's gone in.
Would that affect the taste of the whiskey that's inside?
No, not really.
Okay.
We use the 200 litre bourbons, but we also use generally it's this one. So it's 100 litre. It's what they call Australian quarter casks. So 100 to 120 litres. And whiskey matures volume to surface area. So for a 100 litre cask, it'll mature in like 4 to 7 years. And we also do little 20 litre casks, and they're generally privately owned.
Okay.
So people can purchase.
So you can buy it like a barrel like that.
Yeah.
All right.
So you purchase the barrel. You can have a say in what sort of wood's available, and the purchase of a new make spirit to go in it.
How much would that cost?
I think it's about 2,700, something like that. And then it sits in the bond store until
you
2.5 year maturation for a 20 litre cask.
We should do that.
So sometimes groups, sometimes individuals, sometimes groups of friends, sometimes people do it for business as well. Once the whiskey's matured, the distillers will take samples, send it off to the client, and they usually send it at a couple of different strengths. So I think 46% and cask strength at 60%. Client decides what strength they want it all bottled at, either one or the other, or half and half. Then the spirit's emptied into an alcohol-proof plastic vat. The only thing we add is water to change the alcohol by volume.
Is there a minimum amount you can or you can just buy one barrel?
Well, you can buy several. You can buy a 100 litre barrel if you wanted to,
Okay.
on what you want to do. Generally, so like with a 20 litre barrel, if you wanted a lower strength alcohol, you obviously get more bottles out of it. So I think they can get like 30 to maybe 40 bottles at 46%, or a cask strength sort of 25 bottles or so. Sometimes in a smaller cask, if you leave it in too long, it can become woody.
Okay.
So they do, it reaches its optimum maturation.
Because it's the smaller amount, the quicker it ages.
Volume to surface area. So the smaller the cask, the more surface area there is to the volume, so faster maturation.
What do you call the people that actually test and find out if the whiskey is good already? What do you call those people? Blenders or
Distiller.
master distiller?
Well, for us, it's just the distillers that determine.
That's part of their job description.
Yeah.
To test it out.
And what we do when the casks are reaching maturation, usually it will happen with I don't know, half a dozen casks at once. The distillers will take samples of each cask. Usually they'll do two, 146 and one at cask strength 60, and then they'll take them off to a tasting panel. And so that's a group of people who have a good palate for tasting whiskey. And through consensus, they determine which cask is best suited at which strength alcohol. So those notes go back to the distillery. The distillers empty the contents of the cask. They add water to the desired strength, and then we settle it out naturally. So when you add water to whiskey, you end up with a situation called flocculation or flocking, separation of protein chains. So it doesn't affect the taste, it's just a visual, it creates a murky sediment. So for us, we settle naturally. The more water you add, the higher the chance of this happening. So at cask strength at 60%, it can settle out in a week or two. But at a lower strength, so our lower strength whiskey is at 40.5%, the old stables, that can take like 10 weeks to settle out.
Oh, okay.
And then they shine a torch up the vat and they can see where it's settled to, and they'll siphon above where it's settled, and that vat will go off to be bottled.
Oh, okay.
And then they might transfer the remainder into a smaller vat and let it settle out again. So it takes time. So some big distilleries will spruik that they chill filter their products. So the chill filtering removes the chance of the flocking happening, but it also removes part of the flavour profile.
Okay.
So the way we do this is to maximise the flavour profile of the product.
Sorry, when you said if they chill filter it, it actually takes out the character of the whiskey.
Yeah,
or the flavours.
it removes the flocculation, the separation of protein chains, but it also removes part of the flavour profile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So big companies like the big bourbon companies that churning over mass amounts of spirit. They're in a hurry to get their product on the market, so they chill filter it. Yeah.
That's just good to know when you're choosing the whiskey. If you see chill filtered, you sort of know.
Yeah, sometimes it'll have on it non-chill filtered. Like our bottles have on it. I think some of them have non-chill filtered, and they have natural flocking may occur, which is sort of suggesting that you may end up with a little bit of sediment in the bottom. But it certainly doesn't change the flavour or the taste or anything. It's just a visual thing.
Okay.
Now the other thing that we do here is gin.
Yep.
So with making gin, you can't use the malt spirit that we make the whiskey with. It's got to be totally neutral. The spirit that we make gin with, totally no flavour, no colour, no odour. So what we use is known as NCS, or neutral cane spirit. Comes to us from Queensland Sugar Refineries as ethanol at 95% alcohol by volume. So when it arrives, the distillers add water to bring it down to 50%, so it's less volatile to hold. And then with making gin must contain juniper berry.
Juniper berry.
And apart from that, it can be a plethora of herbs and spices. So for us, we use coriander seed, chamomile, star anise, cinnamon. All the fruits and citrus that we use are all freeze-dried, so they reconstitute in the spirit. So they will put the spirit into this little still over here at 50%. They'll add the botanicals in calico bags and baskets. Turn the still on, the liquid evaporates, reliquefies, comes out at a higher strength alcohol by volume, but it's then been infused with the flavours of the botanicals. So then they will adjust, make sure the alcohol by volume is as it should be, and the flavour profile as well. For us, our gins are presented at 46%, and then usually within under a week it'll be good to bottle. So
much
again, most boutique craft whiskey distilleries in Tasmania will also make vodkas, gins, liqueurs, because again it helps with the cash flow while they're waiting for the whiskey to mature.
Is it easier to make gin over whiskey, of course, right? Because of the time frame.
Well, I don't know whether the spirit. There's a process of making the whiskey spirit, whereas with the gin spirit, it's coming neutral. But there's a process of getting your recipe right for the flavour profile of the gin to represent the brand that you're.
But to start making money or start monetizing it is quick.
You don't have to wait.
Whiskey, yes.
Wait for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to build your own distillery, you got to have gin as well, so you can start.
We do all our own bottling here.
Yeah. Okay.
So our bottles come from France. Australia doesn't manufacture spirit bottles.
Okay.
We make beer bottles and wine bottles, but we don't manufacture enough spirit to warrant the manufacture of the glass. So both France and Italy are prime spirit manufacturers, spirit glass manufacturers, and China's come into the game as well.
Okay.
So it's all done by hand through a single head bottling machine. Bottle, cork, shrink, hand labelled. Quite often the labels have writing on them as well. Polished up and boxed up for sale.
Nice.
So that all happens here. NCS, neutral cane spirit.
Oh, that's
the gin.
Yeah, so he's got AB, alcohol by volume at 50%.
Okay.
So he's actually taken it from the 95 back to the 50
All right.
for
Already got that.
for storage. So it's much easier to keep it at 50% than at 95.
So that's ready to be mixed with water.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
no, it's ready to be mixed with the botanicals to make the
okay.
spirit.
The behind the scenes, mate. Before you enjoy it, you actually see how.
Well, see, my background's hospitality, so working in bars and pubs and clubs and stuff, I didn't even think about how it was made.
Yeah.
I was just going, what do you want next?
Nice, yeah.
But and then when I moved down here from Melbourne about 12 years ago, and I didn't want to work in bars and clubs anymore, but I ended up sort of working at the distillery, and a bit of a sideline from all that, and very interesting to discover how it was all made. We've got 2 bond stores set up, and they've split the stock between both of them, so you haven't got all your eggs in one basket. But on the left-hand side, so they're primarily private casks. So they can name them, like someone's called this one the Fox.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They can visit them. You can have samples of them as they're maturing to.
And it's $2,700.
Sorry?
It's $2,700 minimum.
Yeah, I think it's about the startup is around 2,700. So that gets you your cask, and then you make spirit and insurance. It's fully insured while it's in the bond store. And they don't move them at all. Once they're sitting in place, that's it. They just
Stay there for years.
until they mature. And they're generally put in an order of when they were filled, so they know about how much, if one's maturing or the one next to it's not too far off either. And then on this side, these are generally our stock maturing for commercial sale. So they're generally 100 litre casks, Australian quarter casks, so 100 to 120 litre. And I have the fortified wines tend to be more barrel shaped, and I'm pretty sure this one here would be a bourbon. The bourbon are a little bit more cylindrical rather than have a barrel sort of a shape to them. But it's interesting on them they have, so this one here, cask number 625, the owner is OKD, which is Old Kempton Distillery, the cask type Pinot. And then the date they were filled, they use what's known as the Julian date, which is the Roman calendar, so JD. And the way that works is the first number is the last number of the year, and then the next 3 numbers are the day of that year that it was filled. So for this one, it would have been filled 2022 on the 49th day of that year. Yeah, it's funny. It's just the way that they do that.
You said the bigger the barrel, the longer it ages,
Yeah,
right?
longer it takes.
So for this one,
Well, so that one is a 500 litre musket cask, and they use that as what they call a finishing cask. So they might have some stock that maybe hasn't come up to scratch as well as they had hoped. So then they will put it into finishing cask, and the flavour added from that cask to the whiskey that's in there enhances the flavour, and they might do that as a limited release. So it could be like a port cask matured and a musket finish. Yeah, because some casks, when they go off to tasting panel, they taste them, they go, wow, that's just incredible. So they'll make a decision to actually release that cask, the whole cask, as a limited release. And all the bottles will be numbered individually, and it'll be done as a special release because it's performed really well. Other ones are sort of a bit, middle of the road. So to make them a better product, they will use finishing casks and things to
Plus, you've
improve.
invested 2 years in it. You won't freaking just throw it away, mate.
And you can notice there's like one that's almost got a black end. There's a couple of those. So they're from Europe, and they're the casks have come from Oloroso.
Oloroso, yeah.
So Oloroso sherry.
Yep.
And occasionally we also get Pedro Ximénez sherry as well from Europe. For us, those casks are really special because we get our ex-fortifieds generally come from South Australia, but for us to get casks from Europe is
It's a big deal.
usually they're done as limited releases.
So it is the same thing. You can only use the cask twice.
No, they'll use them. They'll do what they call a second fill.
Yep.
And if the cask has performed really well, they'll even send it back to the cooper to get reconditioned again.
Okay.
And part of the reason with that is the barrels are quite expensive to purchase, and not as many people are drinking fortified wines as they once did. And there's more distilleries, so there's more people looking for a finite number of casks that are available. Yeah, so and now in the marketplace there are barrel agents.
Barrel agents.
Yeah, so barrel agents will negotiate between the bourbon distilleries in America and the wineries here, the barrel coopers and the distillers, and they talk about what's available and what they can get their hands on and trying to buy and sell consignments of casks. So, but then and that's why, like when you had the taste of the new make spirit, as I said, it's important to get that right in the first place because whatever happens is going to be influenced by that spirit that you made. And then the process of the casks they're being matured in and how long they've been there and the environment they've been matured in. Because in here you'll get the heat of the day and the cool of the night, so you get expansion, contraction. And it influences the product in the cask. In the bond stores maturing, we will lose between 1.5% to 3% per annum to evaporation. And they call that the angel share.
Angel share.
And while that's not such a good thing for the distillery to be losing part of the volume they could be selling, it tends to be the more volatile elements of the spirit that evaporate. So over the course of maturation, the spirit's actually improving in its quality as well.
What evaporates is alcohol. So
Yeah, but it's the more volatile and astringent elements of the spirit that evaporate first. So it actually
less. The ABV becomes less.
no, it can increase.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So it goes in at 63.4, but at the other end, some of them can be the same, and some of them can be a little bit higher, heading towards 70% alcohol by volume.
Out of the barrel, is that what you guys put straight into the bottle? Or it still get mixed by water before it gets bottled?
Very rarely they will do what they call true cask strength,
Oh, yep.
which will be as it is when it comes out of the cask. Generally, they will add water to so cask strength for us is 60%.
Yep.
So some cask strength are late 50s, early 60%.
So out of the barrel, you'll still try and mix it up with water just to...
I think it increases the volume you've got for sale.
Yep.
Decreases the strength of it. And then some whiskies are better suited at a higher or lower strength of alcohol by volume.
Okay.
Bill Lark uses the analogy, he would say, the amount of whiskey that Tasmania makes in a year
Is nothing compared to
is what
Scotland.
Scotland would spill on the floor.
Wow. The amount of whiskey Australia and Tasmania distillery makes in a year is the amount Scotland spills on the floor.
So that's sort of an analogy of the difference in volume. But when you think about it, if you go to any Dan Murphy store or you're travelling internationally, you go to duty free and you see, I know I'm just using Johnny Walker Red as an example, I guess, but you see Johnny Walker Red in every bottle shop, in every duty free, all around the world. And when you think about the volume that they must make to be able to supply that everywhere all over the world, millions and millions of bottles. Whereas we're just sort of, this little boutique craft distillery, we just don't, it's not what we're about, really. So we're not about the volume, we're more about the quality, making a quality finite resource of the spirit. So, and that's why it's expensive, because there's far less volume, it's all done by hand, it's distilled by hand, not, there's no computers, and all bottled by hand, and
because I mean we reviewed some scotches, and we always wanted to do some review some Australian whiskies, but you look at the price.
The price point is different, like.
But then interesting, because like an 18-year-old whiskey doesn't necessarily mean that it's better.
Correct. No, 100%, 100%.
It generally means it's been matured in a much larger vessel for 18 years to have that interaction with the internal surface to get the same as what you could in 2 years in a 20 litre.
But as a consumer though, right? The marketing, when you look at it,
absolutely.
like 18, no age, 500 mil, 750.
Sure.
But the thing is, we've just started tasting the Australian whiskey. They're freaking great.
Yeah.
Do you want me to run through the whiskies again so we can...
I'm good, I already know what I want.
Are you happy?
Yeah, I already know what I want.
Thank you very much for choosing to come to Old Kempton and doing a tour and tasting. And I hope I've imparted a little bit of knowledge and not confused.
No, thank you.
I'll confuse him even more.
And I'll leave you in Adam's.
Thanks so much, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right, so what are we thinking? Paddles.
I'll be choosing for him, so yeah, these guys go first.
What?
Probably this one.
10th anniversary, yep.
And then, what are these again?
So, Old Stables is the entry-level dram.
Yep.
So that really easy drinking, soft on the palate. These are where you start getting into the nitty-gritty, so the single cask. So single cask tawny being those stewed fruits, white pepper, jammy marmalade. Pinot Noir cask being that Tasmanian Pinot Noir cask, those vibrant fruits. So think about blackberries, raspberries, raisins, and then you're seeing more of those kind of tannin coming through. And then the sherry cask, as I said, was that sweet kind of toffee, lactose creamy element as well. And then
What's something that's a bit peaty?
nothing.
Nothing.
We don't do any peated whiskey.
Nice.
Unfortunately.
My kind of whiskey,
That's
man.
why there's in the process they didn't have the peat.
You know what? I'll start, right? Because I already picked mine. I'll take the
Old Stables?
the Old Stables. Then I'll have the classic sherry.
Yep.
And this is the cigar malt kind of
Yep.
thing, right?
Cigar whiskey, Solera.
And the 10th anniversary.
10th
release.
anniversary. Beautiful.
What are you getting?
So I'm getting the 10.
Yep.
You're remembering all this, right? Okay. So I'll just make it easier. So for me and him, we're having one of each, and the another Old Stable.
So why don't you go the 10th? How about you go Pinot, Tawny, Old Stables?
Yeah.
And on the other one, we go... Oh, hang on, Craig's writing it down, otherwise I'm going to confuse this
Oh,
shit.
yeah.
So look at that, hey?
Yeah.
Yep. As well as 10th. And then on the other paddle, we'll go Coach House. We'll go...
The ones that I didn't pick, plus the...
Go Solera. Go Tawny. And Old Stables.
There you go.
So then you've got a full range.
Yep.
So then if you're not 100% set on your ones, you can taste this.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to finish his anyway because he's driving.
Oh, well, how much did you drink down there?
Just the new make.
That's right.
You won't have more than 2 standard drinks.
Yeah.
It's about 1.5 standard drinks. So we'll put water on the table, so you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You can drink this, wait 15 minutes, means your mouth alcohol is gone. You've had lunch today, I hope.
Yes.
You'll be fine. It's all right. So yeah, whether you want to sit in the front room where we were, which is nice and quiet,
We'll do that.
or the cast
Yeah,
lounge.
we'll do that.
Shoot, what are you thinking?
This one.
The 10th.
10th?
Solera, Pinois. Choose one for me.
Go sherry.
Sherry.
Yeah, the
Sherry.
Apera cask.
Sherry cask, that's-
Yeah,
Sherry cask, man.
John told us that was one of the rare.
It's one of the, yeah, look, we've only got about 100 bottles left. Only reason being is people in Australia don't drink sherry anymore.
Yeah.
So trying to get good quality sherry casks from Australia, very hard to get, but also you can get them from overseas, so from Spain, but you've got to order a pallet, or not a pallet, a container.
Wow.
So in a container, there's normally 8 pallets, and of cask per pallet, there's probably about 8 to 12 casks on a pallet. So, well, it's a lot because you're going to have about 100 casks. We've got a fair few casks, but 100 sherry casks will last us years and years and years. You know, it's probably one of our slowest moving SKUs. And when it's about SKUs, it's the single product. But it's a different product. So you get somebody who walks in here and goes, "Oh, you got sherry cask? I want to taste it." 9 times out of 10, they'll go, "I'll buy it," because to get a good quality sherry cask this day and age, really hard to find in the Australian market. Obviously, overseas you can get a really good quality sherry cask. Obviously, look at Balvenie, look at Glenlivet. They all use a lot of sherry casks. Glenfiddich as well, but they're using different styles of sherry casks, and they're laying down larger casks.
So this sherry cask is Australian sherry cask.
Yeah, a pair of
Yes.
cask. Yep. It was actually one that Rob had selected for a single cask release, and we had to put into our classic range. So Rob,
Interesting.
yeah, did you meet Rob, head distiller?
Oh, that was the guy.
I think it was the one.
Yeah, Rob worked.
I saw him,
Yeah,
but-
Monday's admin day for him. He's got a lot to catch up on.
So that was your head distiller.
Yeah,
Would you like to open this?
yeah, of course you can. Not the bottle, but the tin.
No, yeah, I think the two.
That's right. You open it, you buy it. But and it's different. Like obviously being Northern Beaches. Have you guys gone to Manly Distillery yet?
No, not yet.
Yeah, well, we wanted to, but yeah, I think they only started making their whiskeys. I think it was, I don't know, last year.
Do they have whiskeys in?
They got whiskeys now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fairly recent. I think it was just last
Yeah,
year.
they haven't got whiskies in the last 12 months, but they've got some good whiskies, but also some different whiskies. Like they've got a whiskey that's $79 a bottle and it's 700 ml.
Oh, really?
It's a whiskey that will change the mind of a lot of people. Like you look at Ned Whiskey. Ned Whiskey is an Australian whiskey brand, but based on the traditional bourbon drinker. You know, they're trying to make whiskey for the masses, which is great because it then opens up avenues for us as distilleries to get into different markets. You know, it's the same thing I say for Lark. You know, Lark have been going for 32 years.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that Bill Lark has always said, all ships rise on a rising tide. So, you know, at the end of the day, if one
one
distillery is doing well,
everyone's
and
gonna go.
everybody will slowly get that traction.
Yeah.
And that's really the way that you need to look at the market. Like the gin market, for example, the gin market's on the decline. The only reason being is there's just so many Australian gins on the market. I think there's about over 1,200 Australian gins.
Yes.
You know, and for some people it's good and for some people it's bad because they walk in there and they go, "Oh my God, there's so much gin."
choices,
and then
yeah.
other people are like, "Oh, what's new? What can I try?" But head on through, take a seat. I'll be in in a sec. I'll help Craig finish these. I'll grab some water and then we'll get ready to rock and roll.
So just so it's starting. Should I
Sherry
go
soda.
strong? To no.
Did you have cigar mo? Is that cigar? Which one's cigar? Solera.
Solera.
Okay. Oh, this for adding water, man.
Do you guys sell this? Really? Thanks, bro. There you go. Yes.
Yeah, you just add one drop or one or two. Yeah, pretty much all you need.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you want us to run you through the whiskies again, or are you happy to go on your own devices? Then we can pop
We're
back
good.
in
I'm good.
10
Yeah.
minutes. And
Okay.
Quiz
yeah, of course.
after we finish it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so you can make mistakes, man. It's all right.
I'm not sure if you could think after this. Did you set up your camera? Yeah, you
Are
could.
you filming this just for personal, or is it going to go on somewhere, or?
It's gonna go to our YouTube channel, bro.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
R.E.R. Whiskey March.
It's I don't know how sure this guy's are so proud of it.
Fucking oath, bro. Fucking oath, I'm proud of it.
No one watches.
I don't give a shit.
And if you do it, let us know. Tag us in it, and then we'll share it on our socials.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's all I can get.
There you go, man. You might get one more subscriber.
Lower to higher. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So it's already set up.
Cheers, boys.
I'm just having a look at these ones.
Hindi ka nag-entry.
Well, you know what it is? No. This is the one that goes through chill filtering. Because if it doesn't go chill filtering, it will look like this. It's easy drinking, man. This one.
Okay, what's that?
Yung Old Stables.
Old Stables yung entry level.
Oh, yung ano nila, parang standard, oh.
Entry level, man. It's not as sweet as I thought it would be, but.
Kung di ka.
So Tony Cass is port Cass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not allowed to call it because it's
Didn't come from.
from Portugal. What you bet?
Yeah. So Tony is more Australian than anything.
Ooh.
Must try. You gotta go to the distilleries, man.
This
Lark and Old Kempton. Ngayon, I think I'm convinced that if we ever plan to come back, we have to go to Sullivan's Cove.
That's quite far from Hobart, though. Maybe 3 hours, maybe?
3 hour drive.
I'll go for night din.
Yeah, we'll do that. But it's a must. If everyone's going Lark, then Sullivan.
Yeah, oo ba? Balik tayo pag ano. Pag
Godfather of
400 na yung subscribers natin.
The Lark. Find the Sherry Cask. Old Kempton. Ang ano lang dito, no? Ang difference, dun sa Lark, umiinom ka habang tapos pag uwi mo, pag tapos na, meron ka pang isang
No.
dito, all at once. I like them both too, man, actually. So far, like, yung hospitableness nila is very good. They're very hospitable, man.
Tama nga. Drop
Ooh,
water.
open that shit up.
Drop.
Solera.
Nah, Sherry. I'm finishing it before I go move on, bro.
Sarap magmakap daw pagkatapos.
KFC na lang.
Sige.
something salty,
Something oily.
oily and salty.
Hindi ko gusto ng Pinot Noir. Parang spicy na, tas medyo parang may wine na, dry wine na, Hindi ko alam. Meron ba kayo?
I got a Sherry.
Yung
Pinot Noir, yeah. Ako rin. Oo.
Nagpino ka ba?
ano siya, konting flavor, tapos may,
Ito ba? Pino to, no?
Iniumbos
Inumin ko,
mo eh. Hindi niya daw gusto.
Siyempre, ito subusin mo pa rin.
Ako nga pala. Lagyan ko ng drop of water. Tingnan natin. Baka may iba.
That's a lot of spice, eh?
I like Solera.
Oh, yung spice, oh. Yung dito sa Pinot Noir.
Sayang yung kay Iggy.
I'm not gonna drink it.
Oh, well, I'll think about it. Just leave it there.
Coach.
I think I prefer the Sherry
No.
neat.
Yeah.
The drop of water, just open it up too much.
The Pinot, man.
The Old Stables for me, it was good neat. It was okay with a drop of
Old
water.
Coach House. Yan yung cask tank nila eh.
Matagay. Hindi ka pang tubig to.
Yan, madubig to. Lasing na ako.
Di ba tayo cheers tayong apat, pare? Cheers naman tayo.
Ano ba gusto ko? Ito. Old Stables.
Walang picture?
You ruined the moment, man. Oh, nakaread doon.
Kailangan may picture. Hindi, cheers muna tayo na naka-video. Oh, tsaka.
Yan na.
Ang ganda ng kuha nun, no?
Sabay.
Ang ganda ng kuha nun, no? Oh. Tayo na.
Wala sa gitna eh.
Ang ganda ng kuha. Ang kuha nun, pare. Ako pa yung nasa gitna, pare.
The CEO has to be
The face.
Face of the franchise.
franchise player.
Pare, honestly, nasasaktan na ako pag sinasabi niyang, wala namang kwenta.
Uy, may kasama na ako nasasaktan.
Pare, we're doing this and then you're saying it ain't shit.
I just keeping it real.
Pare.
Keeping it real, bro. Keeping it real. Gusto niyo yung ilagay ko sa mat? Gusto ko yung math. 300 subscribers in 3 years, man.
Who cares? Pero sinasabi sa ito, pare.
60.
Pagka nag-monetize, 1%.
Ano? What the fuck, man? Hindi ko...
May Solera kayo?
Siya, meron.
What do you think of Solera?
Nilagyan ba ng tubig to?
Di ba?
Ano hindi
Teka,
ba?
ano yung Tony?
Akin na to eh.
Masarap yung Solera, masarap yung Solera.
Akin na to eh.
Yung Tony, natikman nyo, anong lasa ng Tony?
Oh, yung Tony parang yung Hobart. Yung Hobart na yun na. Tony kasi yan.
Hindi ako kumuha ng Tony kasi
Ito, dalawang Tony namin.
patingin ako.
Oo. Dahil meron akong sherry, hindi ako binigyan eh. Pero kakalasa yung Hobart. Parang naalala ko yung Hobart. Solera.
Tony's good, bro. No, Tony's alright.
Yeah. But yeah, Solera is good too. Pero yung Pino,
Tony's alright. Kung ayaw mo, akin yung mamaya.
sa'yo na sa'yo. Meron.
Iba mo muna dyan.
Pare, yung Solera, panalo.
Teka, have you guys been nosing it? Has anyone, has any whiskey actually gone, whoa, too much?
No.
Hindi, no?
Ito, kung si Iggy naman yung cast strength, kung gusto yung amuyin niya.
So, iba ang cast strength sa true cast strength. Ang cast strength, meron pa rin tubig.
Yung sa kanila yata, pag 60 patas, sinatawag na lang cast strength kahit na hindi true cast strength. Pero yung true cast, yung cast strength sa sa Scotch, kung anong
They still diluted by water though, right?
Hindi. Kung yung ABV nung sa bar, yung
Pag sinabing cast strength.
sa Scotch, dito yata nilalagyan nila. Pero matas pa rin, nasa 60 plus. Pero hindi ko alam ba ginagawa na yun. Pero konti lang, hindi...
Ito pare, pagka nag-monetize to, bili tayo ng barrel.
We'll do anything, man. We could do anything.
But you don't have a... Wala
That's
kang
what
ano
I'm
eh.
saying, man. Because
Wala
it's
kang
not
ano
gonna
eh.
happen, bro.
Wala kang bilib eh. Ginagawa natin ito.
Pare, isipin mo pare, si Kobe Bryant pare. Yung kalay ko si Kobe Bryant pare.
Bro.
Kada season ba 10 points per game.
Honestly,
He's
it doesn't
gonna go big.
matter if it takes si KFC nga 65 years old na bago pa naging millionaire. Di ba? Colonel Sanders, man, huh?
What Ed means by that is like, let's just focus on creating and making content.
Is that what he really saying?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because I almost hit him with a bottle earlier.
Pare, sinasabi ko, pare, do what you love, bro. It's not about the subscribers, man.
That's what I mean. But we're doing what we love.
No, man, no. You're saying,
No,
pag
we're not.
nag-monetize siya, pare.
Hindi nga eh. Kasi pare, if
No.
someone's got passion,
Yeah.
you feed it. You feed the passion.
Yung passion mo sa para kumita eh. Mali yan,
No,
pare.
not necessarily.
No, man. No, that's
No.
no, man.
No.
No, man.
pero
You're
it's-
always bringing up, man. Pag na-monetize to.
It's stupid not to think about it. Because you're putting money on it.
No,
money
man.
in it. You might as well just do it.
It's a hobby, man.
Hindi nga eh.
It's
There's
a hobby, so
nothing,
don't think about
nothing better than monetizing on your
afterwards,
hobby.
man. Yeah, they don't think about the money, man. They play. They just play, man.
They do.
High school pa lang, yun na yun.
Yun nga yung ano nila eh. Yun nga yung way out nila eh.
Yung mga,
That's a new generation.
No. No, sabi nga ni Kobe, when he got to the NBA, it got so much easier. Why? Because people who made it to the NBA got paid and knows how, this is it, I'm paid already. Then they lost the fucking
But they
urge
were
to
good.
be the best.
They were good to get to the NBA, man. And they loved basketball. They didn't play basketball because they wanted to be rich. Man.
Well, you're stupid. You're crazy if you think that way.
What do you mean, man?
Most of them,
high school pa lang.
most of them,
nakakano na yan.
that's the reason why they wanted to get the fuck out.
Oo.
No, man. No, man.
Yun,
No.
yun yung ano eh.
Yan yung pangahon sa kahirapan nila eh.
Yun nga yung ano nila eh.
To
Yung
take care of the
incentive nila eh.
family, to yun ang
Kaya nga sinabi ni
Tell
Kobe
me
pa,
10 players who are like that, man.
all of them.
LeBron, man.
To get out of poverty.
LeBron.
Everyone.
No, man.
Most of
He
them.
didn't want to get out of poverty.
80% of them did.
Hindi kasi high school pa lang may hammer na siya eh.
80%
No, man.
of the NBA players
You
are like
think the
that.
motivation is to get out of poverty?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
The motivation is to
nga ni
play,
LeBron is
man.
to become a billionaire eh.
No. LeBron, say one. Say one, LeBron. Who else?
What are you trying?
I'm
What are you
saying
trying to
it's
say?
rare that
To be the best, right?
No, man. It's about your passion, man. It's not about the money,
No,
man. It's not,
most-
is it about the money or your passion?
Most of the passion, the greats are
Yeah.
passionate about it and doesn't care about the money because they know for a fact if they just keep pursuing what they want, money's gonna come. Most of the NBA players, right? They fucking play like that to get to the NBA, and so many times when they start playing in the NBA, it's so shit.
Yeah, yeah,
Kaya
yeah.
nga sinabi ni Kobe, it got so much easier.
Tell me this, about your passion, bro.
The question is, are you passionate about it?
Yeah, man. That's all I want, man. I'm not about the 4,000 subscribers, man. I'm about the whiskey. Okay, Coach House. Coach House, bro. Okay, we were, had our 4 flights of, flight of whiskey. And we're just about to leave. It was a good experience.
So Rodrigo is our designated driver, so he wasn't able to actually enjoy the flight of whiskeys, but it's definitely it's a must try. You gotta come to Old Kempton Distillery. It's pretty good. It's really good. Different experience from the Lark Distillery, but good.
Don't forget to like.
And
Out of passion, subscribe.
sabi mga tagahanga.
Humanga lang kayo. Hindi ko marinig kasi nasa akin, Mike.
Mga lang kayo.